Dude, I am telling you, there's no way any of what you're saying is possibly true. I have told you, I've checked Reddit multiple times and all of those sites confirm that was an Old Norse saying for marriage. Okay, all right, fine, have it your way. Is any of what he's saying true at all? I have never heard of that. How does that make sense? You know, kneeling to propose. I don't think kneeling was an Old Norse custom in marriage. Thank you. Exactly. The whole kneeling for marriage thing was much more of a medieval romanticism concept with knights and maidens and stuff like that. It was not some sort of Norse tradition to kneel. What is even the point of this conversation? I am glad you asked, because the video I wanted to do was how devastating an arrow to the knee would actually be. And there's actually early tales in history about an arrow going through someone's leg and pinning their leg to a horse in the saddle. So basically going through and through. An arrow to the knee, huh? Don't you say it. My grandfather used to be an adventurer. Don't say it. He took an arrow to the knee. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerd and nerdettes. Now, last video I had a ton of fun with blunt damage and the kina, basically just smashing things as hard as possible. To which quite a few viewers actually claimed I was some cringe cosplayer. Faking the whole thing, but I digress, because we're here not to squabble, but to have fun. So if you're anything like me, who's a 40-year-old, you basically grew up with the initial release of Skyrim. That's before they remastered and remastered and remastered before making an Elder Scrolls 6. But if you think Todd Howard's the only person who can milk something until it's dead, well, you have not been to YouTube. The plan for today's video is to check the impact force of a bodkin tip with a heavy-duty warbow against some bone. So this, in the previous videos, the bone I had was dried, so it shattered dramatically. This one is much fresher. I got it today from the butcher shop. So it's got the marrow and everything inside of it. It's not dried out. And I'm gonna test and see how an arrow would do against a really thick femur like this. So technically it's not an arrow to the knee, but it's an arrow to the thigh. So what we're gonna do is take our Gorilla Tape and wrap it around our poor dummy's leg here. And I'm gonna try and pinpoint this femur here and see what it'll actually do against a very thick bone, and kind of get an idea if a warbow hit an unprotected part of your body and hit bone, how it would do against that. So for this video, we're gonna be about 15-20 yards away, something like that. I'm gonna start with a 130-pound warbow. I'm gonna start with the 130-pound warbow. I have the 121 at 30-inch flat bow and the 160 at 32 warbow as well. So I'll work my way up to that one as well and see if there's a difference in the impact and the damage. So we are starting with the 130 at 32 along with a bodkin tip point. I forgot my arm guard, so hopefully I don't slap my arm today. And we'll see. All right, so a couple missed shots there, no surprise, that is a small target. But this one here that went into it, I'll pull it out in a second to show you how deep it went, but it did not go through and through the bone. However, that's pretty deep. So as I pull it out, all right, so it was in there and it was right here. So the penetration depth was right here. So obviously this is a cow femur, so a little thicker than human. Didn't go through sinew or padded gambeson or anything like that. But if that were to hit a leg and go into it, you're dealing with a lot of penetration into the bone there as well. And I'll bring the camera around as oh, you know what? No, I'm wrong. It did, okay, it popped out. All right, so I was wrong, gross blood. So I was wrong, that did in fact go through. So that broke this off and it punched through. So that went through a solid femur, and inside this femur as well, if you know you get something from a butcher, there's still the marrow and everything inside of it as well. So it's going through the entirety of that bone. in and out the back, and that's a lot thicker than just like a human femur. So next we have the 160 at 32. I hope I don't hit my arm on this one either, but we will find out soon. Oh, ow, nope. Yeah, I gotta tighten that string up. Oof, that was a direct hit. Ow, crap. Okay, so if you've ever been curious what string slap looks like from that, that's this one right here. So the first one, the 130, was like a nick. That 160, I'm just getting it right. And so I got to twist the string a few more times. So it had more laxness in there. And so it just gave me a real good kiss right there. Oof. So I'm gonna need to come back and do this when I have a glove. Dang it. So there it is right there, starting to welt up already. It's been a while since I've done that, to be honest, but never fun. That's for sure. All right, what are we gonna audible to, you may ask? Well, let's say your bow breaks down. Breaks in battle, your string breaks, something like that. You gotta audible or enter the melee. So we're gonna try this now with the bone, which is still in pretty good shape. I'm gonna set up Taquinum's knee plate over it along with a padded gambeson. I'm gonna hit it to see if behind that I can crack this bone. Okay, so my string broke and we are out of arrows, let's say. I have this padded gambeson here, so that's gonna be our leg protection. And then over top of that, I'm gonna have this knee plate here as well. So it's gonna be pretty well secured in there. I'm gonna tie it up and set it on the dummy. And my goal here is to see if the concussive force of that warhammer is gonna be enough to crack that bone inside of here. Set it up on the dummy leg here, like this, which should provide a pretty good impact and not be like against the wood, because the other test I did was against wood. So I wanna hit it here against something that's a little softer and like a solid object. That amount of swings is going to be impossible to pull off. The first few I actually did with the spike side, and then I switched to the hammer side. When I switched to the hammer side, I was actually able to dent in the C60 hardened steel. And what did that do to the bone? Well, that broke it in two there. So obviously, oh wow, all these little pieces falling out. So even though I wasn't able to penetrate the plate, you can see by the deformation there that the bone underneath it was able to snap. And that was, again, not against a wood surface, it's against this padded dummy here. So you could definitely break someone's bone without having to pierce the armor. And that's gonna show why the warhammer was such a devastating weapon. Like I said, again, this is just full tilt boogie, so, you know, the chance of pulling these off is low, but it doesn't mean it cannot be done. So at this point, I've obviously kind of lost track almost of what this video was supposed to be about originally. Let's just call it the archer build. When your bow doesn't work quite right, switch to your sidearm and you can ping those knights down even without having to go through their armor. The body itself can only take so much underneath even all of this. And so if you're able to get that shot off right there, dent that in, it's going to break the bone behind it. And it's gonna snap it, and that's gonna slow that guy down. So if you got that archer strength, you're gonna be, you know, okay if you get a lucky shot. What? Okay.